This pilot episode of Where I Stay is brought to you in part by Robert and Linda Clemens, whose dedication to my education has awarded me an abundance of opportunities. I love you and thank you. Hi, my name is Hallease. I'm a video producer, content creator, and photographer. I decided to start this journey to learn about myself as a Black American and how people of the African diaspora have influenced cities, states, countries, and continents. I figured it'd be best to start off in the city where I stayed, Austin, Texas, and bring y'all along for the ride. This is Where I Stay, Austin. Austin is an odd anomaly. As the capital, it's located towards the center of the state and is a popular destination for its many music and film festivals. Like many young people that migrate here, I moved to attend the University of Texas. Throughout my academia, I had a very narrow view of the city. I mostly stuck to the downtown area and campus. Once I graduated, I began to branch out and broaden my view of the city, and I called Austin home for the better part of a decade. I decided to meet with Latoya Devezine, the Travis County Archivist, to learn about Austin's Black history.
So my job is a combination of things. I collect, preserve, make available here for research, and teach about African American history in Travis County. The History Center works by community donations, so it's about the history that people tell me. That's why my title is African American Community Archivist. This is kind of what you would call a participatory archive, and that means that the community has an active role in us telling the stories that they would like us to tell.
I think people don't quite realize how extensive the Black history here is.
The Black history in Austin is very rich, but one thing I've noticed about my work here at the Austin History Center is that African American history here has gaps. There are so many things that we don't know about African American history in Travis County, and so many stories that need to be told that we don't have the information for.
It's interesting to see Austin as I see it today. A city that's increasingly outgrowing its infrastructure, with hundreds of people moving to the city a day for the promise of new industry, and arguably what is one of the last most liberal-minded cities of the state. It is still a city with challenges, grappling with a shrinking African American population that historically was pretty vast and contributed to Austin's overall economy and history. After emancipation and Juneteenth, freed slaves settled all over Austin, building small but strong, tight-knit communities.
So it's kind of like a safeties in numbers sort of thing. You have to remember they were living under Jim Crow laws, and so by living together in a space, you could be safer. And so that was one of the reasons why you saw those freedmen communities spring up. But we have people in South Austin like Kitchenville and East Austin and Robertson Hill, Pleasant Hill, Clarksville, and Wheatville. Those were all prominent African American communities at that time.
And so the African American population was kind of spread out all over the city rather than what I think most people know about Austin today, which is that it's mostly congregated, or at least it was, to the east side.
That happened in 1928 with an engineering plan from the Planning Commission with Koch and Fowler engineers.
So let's talk about Koch and Fowler. They were commissioned by the city in 1928 to help rezone. Essentially, the powers that be didn't like that the African American population was so spread out amongst the city. Which makes sense. It's a lot harder to enforce Jim Crow when everybody you want to segregate and marginalize is dispersed.
And by creating a Negro district, what that meant was cutting off resources to the other communities in the area to make that area more desirable.
Okay.
So that happened through redlining, which was a process that happened with African Americans and Mexican Americans, where you may not get utilities or something like that cut on for your street, where your neighbors might have electricity. So after a while, your white neighbors, if you happen to be in a neighborhood where they didn't want you. And so that would kind of force you to kind of maybe move somewhere else. And so that was kind of a tactic to move. Also, Clarksville, if you look at, there are some documentaries from the 70s when Mopac first was being built. And you'll see that Clarksville had dirt roads. There were no paved roads in Clarksville or Wheatville.
So they like purposely didn't, how would you say, like develop the area, I guess?
Pretty much. And also you'll see examples if you look in the archives and look through history where trash wasn't picked up. If you look in city council minutes and different things. And there were no sanitation issues. The area was very unsafe and unclean. And so if you look at trash being dumped in your street from the city of Austin, but it's being dumped in your yard, you know what happens in history with trash. We had the bubonic plague, all these different diseases that happened because of unsanitary conditions. Yeah. And so that was something that was happening in those areas as well, where people were sick, you know, just dealing with different issues because of these unsanitary conditions. As the city was coming to make people leave their homes, they didn't know ahead of time. You might get a notice maybe like a month before or something like that, that you have to leave your home. Oh. That your, you know, that was built by your enslaved ancestors. So I mean, that's if you think about that history, yes. You had these batten board homes that were built by former slaves, and you know that house had been in your family for years, and so you had to leave. And not only that, they were paying the families maybe $4,500 at the most, because they paid them what they felt the home was worth. But even at that time, you still couldn't move and buy a home in Austin for that price. They still were struggling. And so that, a lot of the community dispersed that way.
And all of this was a way to get people to essentially move to a specific part of the area that they wanted.
Yeah, so they put a pool in East Austin. East Austin had paved streets, lights, rec centers, everything that an African American person would find desirable at that time. So why not move to East Austin?
So yeah, the 1928 plan was pretty ridiculous. But from that bigotry sprouted a blossoming community. East Austin became a beacon for Black excellence. Anderson High School was an exemplary school that brought some of the best teachers from the state and the nation to its halls. East Austin gained an NAACP chapter. The segregation created a space for safe Black home ownership. Black businesses flourished, and a for us by us mentality created a true sense of community through partnership. In other words, they endeavored to persevere in spite of their oppression.
Well, a lot of people don't know that 6th Street was actually an African American business district.
Yeah, that place that has become a 21-year-old's rite of passage. It's crazy. I know.
People who are wagoneers, and you had people making horseshoes and blacksmiths, and there was a hat shop and grocery stores, just so many different things right in that area. And it was just heartbreaking to kind of see those businesses disappear.
So it's clear that Austin has a diverse and thriving history. If you would like to hear and see more episodes of Where I Stay on different cities, states, and countries, please consider supporting the production of the show via the Patreon account. My name is Hallease. This is Where I Stay. I'll see you when I see you.